story begins in a town neither big nor small. Nothing eventful, nothing at all. Here people lived at a pace rather slow, never in a race, moved by ebb, drawn by flow. Suburban wasteland of the mundane, no compulsive behaviour, always the same. However, there was one thing Brian really did know, was that these infernal cats had to go. He spent his youth forcing himself into various departments of the arts, but things always turned a little dark. The teacher calling his parents for a talk about how they'd been watching him like a hawk. They questioned his parents about life at home, as he always seemed to sit alone. At break, at lunch and in class, he didn't fit in with the mass, sweaty group of hormonal youths. The art he depicted had no normal artistic truths. There was no beauty, love and happiness, but instead overbearing mothers, mentally scarred children, and, sometimes, sexually ambiguous lovers. Next he tried the Academy of Sensationalist Talent, where he found some mental balance. He also made his first friend Jim, a functional connection where they went to the gym, and discussed the nutritional properties of gin. There was none. But soon, Jim was gone. He died filming the struggles of an individual mosquito in a society where even Londoners are inflicted by a variety of a mozzie subculture in their underground, death by malaria. How profound. Here Brian could not refuse the dying wish of Mosquito Jim to bestow on Brian his cat, a decision made on a whim, instead of Jim's frail old mother. Alas, Brian did not shudder, accepting ownership of the small Bengal cat, all because of one tiny gnat. Brian did not know the name of his new pet. He didn't feel the need to take it to the vets. He knew it had a constant need to wet its little paws and curl up in its bedroom drawers. He did not know the sex or the exact age of the simple little feline that vexed his usually complicated and tortured thoughts and pleasures of cheese and wine and lemon tort. Still, this cat hadn't a name or a gender. He thought it small, slight and slender, with a definition of a clouded leopard, a personality a little shrouded, often staring like a shepherd without sheep. And then it would fall asleep. What is this kitty, this tiger? Not a mittens, or a whiskers. He hoped it wouldn't have kittens. One mouse catcher was enough, his clothes feather covered in fluff. When humans came for dinner and all he could offer was a tin of tuna, litter and a furball coffer, or simply a sleeping cat on your lap, in every door a perfectly placed cat flap. Every morning brought a dead rat. He couldn't be that guy with 6 cats. In life, he felt, he never truly made a start. When it came to dating and falling in love, he never really got that part, as he forever lived under the thumb of his thumbless cat and its purring heart. Always the understudy, never the lead. His life mainly consisted of morning feeds, or the mid-evening munch, never talking business at lunch, or taking holidays or weekend city escapes, because his heart would simply break to leave his cat alone with the cattery owner who looked like Sylvester Stallone, with a mole on her lip with one stray hair and a tribute he really wished wasn't there, uncomfortably trying not to stare, his gaze fixed on that one thick, long black hair. It was only in the cat Brian placed his trust, the only creature he'd fuss. Great Catsby the cat was named, a cat so gentle he could not be blamed for adoring the feline, when the city, the sound, the overcrowded skyline, and the overwhelming pressure of a sociable society caused him to tremble and bring bouts of anxiety, a crushing sensation that was only solved, only comforted by a cat he could easily hold. So he moved to a town that was neither big nor small. Nothing went on there, nothing at all. He never had to race or move with the ebb, or be drawn by the flow. Here he could live at a pace rather slow, and live in the suburban wasteland of the mundane, no compulsive behaviour, every day the same. He could work on his pastiche of art, or film or a book or whatever, and here he could happily live forever. And what is this? Where did this moggy come in? The doors and windows all locked from within. The blood began ringing in his ears. He was becoming the man he always feared. All the cats would flock to his house alone. The only sound you could hear was the rumbling moan, straight from his 10 cats. But no, he wasn't quite there. It wasn't more than he could bear. This cat was quite friendly and rather pretty. Such a beautiful face. Oh, Brian fell in love with this kitty. His heart trembled like a double bass. A princess he would treat her. She being purebred would obviously concur. A best friend she became. She'd sit on his lap all day, and purr and be stroked. Her tail would dangling sway to the rhythm of his heart until she'd fall asleep. He'd place her down and away he would creep, leaving Cleopatra to her docile slumber, only ever waking at the sound of thunder. And on that one fateful night the thunder did roar, the lightning did flash like a dramatic score. Cleopatra was lost. Where would she be? Cat with eyes bright blue and fur so silky. She won't be outside. She wouldn't have been able. Great Gatsby took refuge under the table. She'd been sick at the time. She couldn't have gone far. Then he came across a door slightly ajar. And there the cat lay, breathing heavily, barely able to say one meow or even a purr, because there was a kitten buried deep within her fur. She was pregnant? How did he not know? He thought she was getting fat, not starting to show. But who got her pregnant? A house cat was she? It must have been that genderless Great Gatsby. He pointed the finger. His thoughts did linger. That this kitten was white, so maybe it was that night she climbed into the house, quieter than a mouse. That she was escaping some purebred treachery, thoughts of inter-family lechery sending shivers down his spine, forcing him closer to his beloved family feline. It had been several months from that date, when Cleopatra had given birth to his third soulmate. Sir Pussington, he called him, ended up hand-reared. He had not become the man he admittedly feared. No one came around, no one not ever. He thought himself rather clever, never dealing with human issues or strange behaviours. These cats were his saviours, key to a pure and simple life. He had no quarrel, no strife. He adapted and became more like a cat. He stared out of windows, in strange places he sat. He enjoyed the bathtub, but without the water. When he walked, he would saunter. When on the bed he'd curl up like a ball, and pretend there was no outside, no curiosity at all. Some days he had managed to provide sustenance for his kindle, but food for himself soon did dwindle. He noticed he was getting quite thin. It had been 10 months since he'd been to the gym, but who needed treadmills, weights and protein shakes, when all you needed was a soft purr to wake, or to get you up and start your day with a sachet of beef or chicken or fish fillet. He'd spread it on toast just like pâté. The story began in a town neither big nor small. Nothing eventful ever happened to Brian, nothing at all. Brian lived in a pace rather slow, never raced, moved by ebb or drawn by flow. He wasn't part of the suburban wasteland of the mundane. He exhibits strange behaviours, the neighbours complained. However, there was one thing Brian really did know, was that these infernal cats had to go. He began picking at the fur from his sweater. It was the first of the steps to making him better. He pushed off the cat feasting from his lap. Outraged it yowled, disturbed from its snack. He trembled like a volcano about to erupt. His mind felt poisoned and incredibly corrupt. Were these cats, he finally did see. He screamed and wailed and fell to his knees. The cats circled as if he were their kill. A behaviour he remembered, a behaviour to thrill him right to the core, and the memory splattered. His ears began ringing, his reality shattered. That these cats were the beginning and end to his story. Gruesome death of a man, incredibly gory. As Great Gatsby looked into his eyes, he remembered the truth. He unravelled his lies. That Brian brutally skinned poor Jim alive. Brian remembered the sound as the blade dug in, into Jim's flesh, deep into Jim's skin. Cause all Brian wanted to do was go to the gym and discuss the nutritional properties of gin. Just for once, just to be informal, instead of the monster, this man abnormal. He remembered Jim's screams when the wail grew thin. He remembered the silence as death slipped in. And when he looked up, everything was still, including this cat sitting on Jim's windowsill. How long had it been there? What had it seen? It looked into his soul and licked its paws clean. He took all the evidence, including the cat, then left in a hurry, the blood-sodden flat. As he left Jim's apartment, in blood he was soaked. He bumped into Jim's mother and he went for her throat. As soon as she noticed the cat in his arms, and before she could even raise an alarm, she fell to the floor, hitting her head. He checked her pulse, made sure she was dead. As Great Gatsby was his cat now, it was easy taking the life of a homophobic cow. He swooped up the corpse and was out the front door, into his car, pedaled to the floor, glancing at the cat who stared straight back. He shivered, then strangely began to laugh. Politely he drove her corpse to her lair, where he dropped her body from atop the stair, taking a tumble and breaking her bones, evidence showing she died at home, all alone. In strolled a cat that he immediately adored. He already stole one cat. What was one more? Great Gatsby for the brown one, it was Jim's favourite book, and for the other cat he impulsively took. Cleopatra he called her, such a regal name, a beautiful trophy from his murderous game. In a life of such horror, misery and woe, he realised that these cats were all he had to show. Of a normal existence, it was all he had. the only thing daily that would make him glad. The only beings that understood his soul, and the only thing that calmed him when darkness took control. He needed these cats, and they needed him. They didn't need normal people like Jim, or his mother. There would be no others to separate Brian and his cats from one another. He looked at the clock. It was time for dinner. Tuna fish or chicken liver. But as Brian sat up, pain shot through his torso. He looked down to see all his life had to show. His cats gathered round him, licking their lips, as Sir Puss, Cleo and Catsby, tugging into his hips. As they grazed on his flesh like a lamb for the slaughter, the only thing that came across his thoughts were, what goes around comes around. I suppose this is normal. And what he did to these cats was truly awful. He took their families and homes and ate all their food. Brian hadn't realised that he was completely screwed. When they went for his wrists and then for his neck, Brian's life had always been a bit of a shipwreck. A deluge of disappointment, disarray and distress. It was only at this point his sins he confessed. And as his vision went blurry and his mind fogged, he said with his last gasp, I wish I had a dog.